First things first, I want to improvise something for you. And I need your help. I like to do these silly improvisations. I want to do a Christmas carol of your choice in the style of a classical composer of your choice. So this is off the cuff.
Wow.
You tell me. I mean, I don't know if I see how I do it. I don't know. What's a Christmas song that you'd like me to do? Let's pick that first. Any random.
White Christmas.
White Christmas. Let's do White Christmas. Okay. And in the style of what? And think of a classical composer. It might be funny to hear in the style of
Mozart.
Beethoven. Okay, you said Beethoven first, so I can do both. Okay, let's do Beethoven first because you said it first. Thanks. That's a good choice. That's going to be kind of silly because. So, let's see. Right, that's the melody, sort of, right? So, okay. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas in the style of Beethoven. And the lady over there said Mozart, so let's try that too. So, I don't even remember the. Yeah, okay, well, let's see what I can do with that. I don't know. So. So I'll start us off with something Christmassy.
Next to my friend here.
Let's see here.
I just figured it out. You're the first
I'm
person I've heard play. Yeah.
going to play a classical piece. This is an arrangement of a melody from the opera Orpheus and Eurydice by Gluck. Gluck was a composer in Vienna in the 1750s, 60s, that period, before Mozart. And this story is obviously the ancient Greek myth of Eurydice and Orpheus. Eurydice dies, Orpheus follows her into the underworld and tries to save her. And he brings his harp. He plays a beautiful harp called the lyre, and he tries to convince the gods of the underworld to let her go back. They do allow her to go back to earth, but as long as Orpheus, they say, does not look back. There's a story in the Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the same idea. Don't look back, right? That phrase. So, unfortunately, at the last moment, Orpheus looks back and Eurydice goes back to the underworld, never comes back. That's the original ancient Greek myth. In the opera, she does finally return at the end, and they have a big party, and it's everyone lives happily ever after. It's kind of nice. This is the melody from that opera. It's a lament. It's Orpheus's lament for losing his wife, Eurydice. So here is the piece. It's not actually sung in the opera. It's played, it's instrumental. It's flute and strings. And the piano arrangement is by a 19th century Italian composer, Scambati. So this is Gluck arranged by Scambati, melody. So now I'm going to play a couple of Robert Schumann's arrangements of Paganini caprices for violin. So Paganini was like a rock star of the early 1800s. He changed music completely. After Paganini, you know, everyone became more like him, more spontaneous, more wild. And Robert Schumann in the 1830s, he did these arrangements of violin music, solo violin pieces for piano. And I'm going to play a couple of them now. So here's the first one. Schumann, I'll have to mention, Schumann had quite a difficult life. He had bipolar disorder. And you can hear that, you can feel it, I think, in his music. So here's the first one. It's a little bit on the dark. I mean, both of them are kind of dark, but they're quite beautiful too. Even though these are arrangements, adaptations of Paganini, they sound more like Schumann to me. In other words, Schumann's style, even though he's the arranger, it really sounds 100% like Schumann. So here it is, the first one. Thank you. So I mentioned Schumann had bipolar disorder, and there's a darkness to that and the next piece. And it reminds me of something going on with the weather now, which it's not the weather, I mean, it's the way the earth is positioned during winter, is that the days are shorter, there's more darkness, it's cold, but it's actually quite beautiful. And I think that's what the music is like. You know, it doesn't have to always be cheerful and such. So, you know, Schumann was a writer in addition to being a pianist. He wanted to be a novelist. And he created, for the two sides of his bipolar, you know, he created these characters as the parts of himself. So Florestan was what he called his manic side. And Eusebius is what he called his depressive side. And this next piece is like the last one, it's in that second character, Eusebius, the depressive character. Another thing Schumann likes to do is he doesn't have a normal musical development. In other words, he'll have one section and then a splice and then another section, like a march or something, and then another cut, and then go to another section. And people criticize that. They say, well, he doesn't know how to develop. It's not what it is. He is doing what writers of that time did. And also think of, some movies do this too, the splicing technique, where you have a plot, something going on, and then cut another plot going on. And that's what he does, and that's his style, actually. So here is the next, this is also his arrangement of Paganini. But it sounds not like Paganini, it sounds like Schumann. So here it is. I'm glad you like it. It's not the most easy listening. I'm gonna do some more easy listening now, like, because you can't be sad all the time, you know? You can't be happy all the time either. I hate to say that. It's like the weather, you know. I have a friend who lives in California, which nothing against California, but he lives in LA, and he visited the East Coast and said, "Oh, it's finally a rainy, gray day." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "In California, it's always warm and sunny, and you get sick of it." I wouldn't, but it's all just, you know, you need that contrast. And anyway, here is a jazzy version in the style of Dave Brubeck of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So something a little more fun. So I don't know if I could do it that well because, okay, let's see what I can do with it. So that's a little more, that's different from Schumann, you know. One more Christmas song. I'm going to do a gospel Christmas song, which is Go Tell It on the Mountain. And there's a great novel by James Baldwin with the same title. So this is one of the great African American spirituals, and I'm going to see if I can do it. You know, Mahalia Jackson used to sing this just unbelievably. So that's Mahalia Jackson, not Michael Jackson. Somebody thought once I said Michael. It's different. So. Thank you. I'm going to do a very silly Jingle Bells now. And you'll see, it cannot make up its mind what it wants to do with itself. And I relate, because that's usually what my day looks like too. So, all right, here it is. say this is a difficult day because, well, it's Cyber Monday. That's not why it's difficult, but you know, Cyber Monday. Yeah. But it's like Thanksgiving happened and everyone was on break, including me, and then Monday, real life hits again, and then also Christmas is supposed to come so soon now. It's very weird. Anyway, so some of the Christmas music hasn't like returned to me because Christmas music is weird in the sense that it's only once a year for a few weeks. You can't, I couldn't come here in July and play. Maybe someone can do that, but that would be sort of odd. But, so it's like the only seasonal music I can really think of. Here's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in a similarly goofy style. Thank you. Now I'm going to play a longer, heavier piece back to German Romanticism. This is Johannes Brahms' Paganini Variations, Book 2. I think last time I did Book 1, so here's the sequel. And I'll tell you about Brahms. I played you Schumann. Brahms, as a young man, walked up to Robert and Clara Schumann's home. Clara was also a composer and pianist herself, a great one. Young Brahms, he knocked on their door. He just, things were different back then in the 1800s. Security was, people were less scared. And he pretty much said, look, I'm a young composer, I'd like some advice. So they said, come in. He played some of his music, and they were so impressed that they just pretty much adopted him on the spot. He just lived there. And it wasn't, unfortunately, not too long after that Robert Schumann's health, his mental and physical health, really took a turn for the worse. He was institutionalized, and Schumann died at like 47 years old. It's just really sad. Brahms was helping the family. Clara was pregnant with their 7th child at this time. Now, there's this story, and it's a little bit over-sensationalized, but there's a myth with some truth to it that there was a love triangle between Clara Schumann, Brahms, 20 years younger than her, and Robert Schumann. Not exactly. There's a movie from the 1940s, a Hollywood movie with Katharine Hepburn playing Clara Schumann, and it's all about this. Now, probably didn't happen like that. But what definitely was there were some strong, unrequited feelings. That's for sure. It was more of a Victorian era. It was, in other words, their feelings for each other were sort of kept in reserve. And I think that makes it even more powerful in some sense. Brahms, the rest of his life, was a loner. And he would write these letters to Clara and she to him, and you can really feel the unspoken feelings there. And that's more what it was. You know, as some historians said, the lives of the great composers, they were a lot more boring than we might think. So there wasn't some big Hollywood romance going on. It just couldn't be. Now, Brahms, that is a central theme in his music, I think, is that longing and that loneliness. He was kind of lonely. So you hear that in his music. Another thing is Brahms, you know, he was from Hamburg in the far north of Germany. And his character was he was not an easy person. He wasn't friendly or warm unless you knew him. And his music's like that. On the surface, it's, you know, it's dark and it's heavy. But listen a little deeper, and there's a lot of soul there. There's a lot of, you know, those feelings, maybe love is what's there. And there's also a playfulness. And I think that has to do with where he ended up living. You know, he lived in Vienna. Vienna is a diverse place. They speak German, it's Austria, but if you look at a map, it was actually Austro-Hungary. It's further east than Prague. In other words, you know, Vienna is more Eastern European than we might think. There's a lot of Slavic influence. And why did Brahms end up writing Hungarian dances? What's that all about? So he got that Slavic gypsy music, Eastern Europe, he got that influence in his music as well. That's a big part of it. Now the Paganini variations are based on Paganini's 24th Caprice for solo violin, which goes like this. Famous. But when Paganini does it on the violin, it's a lot, you know, I was talking about weather, it's a lot brighter and sunnier because he was from Italy, sort of Genova, sunny place. But Brahms, being from Hamburg, his is much darker, it's more cloudy, it's rainier, it's gloomier, but it has his stamp on it. So anyway, this is Brahms, it's almost like an obsessive thing that he did, writing 2 whole books of these variations. He originally thought they were going to just be exercises for the fingers. I call them finger torture. The first book sent me to the orthopedist over the summer with a painful finger. The doctor said, "What's causing you the finger pain?" I said, "Brahms." One more story about Brahms. You know, Brahms, if you think of him in your mind, if you've seen photos of him from the late 1800s, he looks like Santa Claus with a giant beard. He was very fond of cigars. You know, he just looked like Santa Claus. But he couldn't actually grow a beard until he was in his 40s. If you look up young Brahms, he looks like this angelic guy. He looks so different. It's just, I found that very striking. When I was driving once over the summer through South Carolina, I saw a guy at a rest area on a Harley Davidson motorcycle. He looked exactly like Brahms with the beard and everything. And I told my wife, I'm going to go tell him. And I heard she pulled my shirt and like violently, and she said, "You might not get the reaction you're expecting, please don't." So that didn't happen. But I thought it was Brahms, I really did. So here, this is a longer piece, but listen especially to the quiet parts. That's where the magic of Brahms is, I think. So here it is. That's heavy stuff. And so, you know, I'm going to play you something a little lighter now. This is Winter Wonderland. Because, you know, isn't it going to be, aren't we going to have some sleet tomorrow? Well, at least where I live in Mebane. So in North Carolina, it's not let it snow, let it snow, it's let it sleet, let it sleet. So, all right, here it is. I'll do one more. I got a request. I just played somewhere else today, and I didn't remember that I'd remembered it. Does that make sense? Oh Holy Night. So it's a little early for that, but you know, I thought I would do it. So. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy the holidays. They're coming. So take care.
Thank
Thank you for having me very much. Thanks for the warm welcome. Yeah.
you.